Welcome back to the reflection room. Today, I am definitely looking forward to our conversation, Hannah. When you came up with this idea, I jumped on it, definitely pounced on it. I thought it was relevant and I thought it would lead to a great conversation. But before we start, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing good. Yeah, doing good. Not too bad. I think today's discussion is going to be pretty relevant. I don't know if you hear clients bringing this up or this platform up often, but I know in sessions every so often I'll have a client say that they either are looking for advice on like ChatGPT or on social media, and then this one sometimes is included as well, which is Reddit. So yeah, any thoughts overall on today's conversation before we hop in?
I'm excited. I do hear about this one a lot. I think recently I've heard more of people asking ChatGPT, or AI, but I do still get clients talking about Reddit, like going on there to look at how people feel about working at certain places before they apply for a job. Or like, I think it can be useful in ways, but sometimes people just enjoy it for the drama. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what we found.
Same here. Yeah, same here. I every so often sometimes I'll Google something and a Reddit link will come up. And so there have been times where I've clicked on it and you can kind of get lost in the trail of comments and opinions, and it's always interesting to see the different opinions that are listed out for specific questions. So I'm excited to see where our opinions kind of lie on some of these. But yeah, so I guess I'll hop right in. So I have one here. It's a little bit lengthy, so I'll kind of go over the details, and then what we decided to do was in honor of how we naturally are as therapists, instead of giving advice, we thought we would just ask some probing questions for people that might be experiencing something similar to help them really kind of navigate these situations and do a little bit of reflecting and increase their insight. So excited to hear your thoughts on this situation. I thought it was, I thought it related to, I think, situations that most people have probably found themselves in at one point in time. And so I figured it would probably help quite a few people that are listening. So, all right. So this person that asked for advice on Reddit, so he's a 23-year-old male, and he recently went through a breakup with his girlfriend. He didn't say exactly how long they had been together, but he did say that he did his best to engage in this relationship differently than he had in the past. And so some of the examples that he gave here was taking things slower, waiting a little bit longer before they were intimate, respecting personal space whenever she asked for personal space. And then he wrote, which I thought was a bit insightful, I think, for us, maybe as therapists, as we're kind of reading through this, but I didn't immediately make her my entire world. I waited. So that lets us know that sometimes he has, right? And fairly quickly. But so overall, he was just hoping to have a very healthy relationship with this person. And then he said that after a while, she just started getting a little bit more distant and wasn't communicating with him, wasn't really going over the challenges that they would have before they would talk about them. Instead, she really wouldn't bring them up or wouldn't want to discuss any concerns that he had. And then eventually she just stopped responding. And so he said when she stopped responding, at first he was a little concerned that maybe the relationship had ended. And so he was trying to figure out a way to fix it. I wanted to understand what was happening and was hoping to have at least one more kind of honest closing conversation with her. And so he said he would text her a few times. She never answered. And then finally, in his second to last message, he sent her what he said was a very calm message that was like, I hope you're doing well. I hope everything's going well with work, and I wish you the best. And then she never responded, and that triggered him. So then he sent a final message, and he actually says, I snapped and sent a final emotional message and just kind of saying that I don't understand how you went from saying I love you to not responding. And so his question at the end was, where do you think I went wrong? Did I try too hard to say something that was already over? Should I have recognized her silence as a sign to step back? And then he essentially is like, don't go easy on me. I really want to make sure that I do things right the next time. So Any thoughts on that situation? And I feel like there are aspects of it that are kind of relatable to
Yeah.
a lot of people that have, engaged in relationships before. So, yeah, what comes to mind when you hear that originally?
Well, my immediate thought is that I applaud him for being so open to feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what I would say to a client who is asking for feedback on that. Because he's not necessarily straight up asking for advice or validation. He's asking for, like, help correct me so I can do it better next time, which is
Mm-hmm.
impressive. So for a 23-year-old male who's, probably done something like this before, he's noticed a pattern and he's looking to
Yes.
change something about it. So that was my immediate thought, was like, good job to you, like,
Uh,
for trying to correct this pattern. But yeah, what did you think immediately?
Yeah, very similar. I think that there were a few pieces that stood out to me that I think, and you probably had a similar thoughts. Like, I wonder what his past has kind of looked like, and what those relationships had been like to lead him to want to do things differently. Although we do see him default back to what some of those patterns were, right? And you can almost, like, as I was reading it, it's like I could almost hear the urgency, like he's this pursuer almost of relationships, in hope of like keeping things together, maybe thinking part of it is his fault. Like, you can see what most of us would probably refer to as this anxious attachment style there. So I thought it was great. You're right, especially for someone who is, probably doesn't have too many relationships under his belt, to have like learned pretty quickly that I think I need to change my ways. So I thought that was great. But yeah, it made me want to like sit across from him and ask him a few questions about some of his past, to really highlight some of these patterns. And you can tell he's ended some cycles, but he continued with other ones. And so just helping him somehow continue with that process of growth and would be kind of my goal. Any questions come to mind that you would potentially ask him?
I wanted to ask him what type of person he's attracted to, and like
Mm,
identify that, because I wonder if, like you were saying, this could be identified as an anxious attachment style. I wonder if he's attracted to the avoidant type, which typically they do attract, but it's very difficult and tumultuous. So I I would be interested to see if that's been the pattern as well, like in previous
mhm.
relationships, and then if identifying that might help him in the future. But yeah, that's kind of like immediately where I went with that, because I did want to know his history of relationships too, but also like what type of people is he interested in?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You're right about that. Like, it's important, when we're talking about relationships, to like not only identify patterns within ourselves, but then who are these people that we're gravitating towards, or we're opening our lives up to, or engaging in relationships with? And are we noticing any patterns there that we could potentially maybe catch quicker if we knew what those were? This was the one thing that I thought, if he was sitting across from me, what would be the thing that I would highlight? And so I think, I tend to do the whole narrative therapy thing. It's just my thing. So what came to mind was there was a pivot there that happened with him when she went silent, where you can see he was trying and trying and trying and trying until the silence just got to him. And that's when he said, I snapped, right? He sent like this emotional message. So I think I would ask a question along the lines of like, what did that silence mean to you? Like, when it was happening, what message was that sending you? And a follow-up question to that would be, was it related at all to you and your worth? Like, were we seeing those two things intertwined, right? Where he was taking her behavior and somehow adding meaning to it that connected it to his worth somehow. And those kinds of things, like I love when people ask for advice or come to counseling when it comes to relationship stuff, because you really can, even if the other person isn't there. Like, for example, this person didn't get closure, at least not, we don't know if it happened after he wrote that message, but and it's still possible to like work on relationships, work on future relationships, work on yourself without having that other person there, and without having the closure that we all hope to receive when we're in these situations. And so I think that would have allowed him to, like your question, asking about like patterns with partners. And then for me, asking him about like if it's related at all to his worth and if it led to insecurities, I think would help him look at the situation a little bit differently. And it doesn't require this other person to be there to do so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a good one.
That is interesting. Yeah. And that actually, the worth question made me think about how he said in the beginning, like he waited to make her his whole world. And I
Yeah,
would
you're
want to,
right about that. Mhm.
yeah, I would dive into that because I'm curious to know if he puts his worth in just being in a relationship in general. Like
Mhm.
if he doesn't feel worthy on his own and as an independent person. So I would kind of want to explore deeper into that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You're right. Like the whole identity thing. Like, does he have a separate identity outside of the people that he associates with or clings to? So, yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
one. All right. I'm excited to hear yours.
Yeah. So I think this one you might like from a narrative aspect. But yeah, so this one is a teenage girl, 16 years old. She's asking if she's overreacting for wanting to be more spoiled by her parents. So she gives a little bit of background. She's an only child. She's frustrated because she feels like she gets a lack of care from her parent. They are incredibly high income, making about 400,000 a year each. She says she's literally been the perfect kid, had straight A's, high SAT scores, plays 3 instruments and 3 sports, and she's pretty talented at all of them. She doesn't smoke, drink, or party, or any of the things that she would classify as being a bad kid, is what she said. They've never had to drive her anywhere because she's used public transport, never paid for any of her expenses because she's never had tutoring. She doesn't go out to eat. So she keeps her cost of living down. She also has only had hand-me-down everything's phone computers, all that stuff. So she's asked to get a job, but they don't want her to get a job. So they give her $40 a month and then refuse to give her more money. She thrifts her clothes. She loves thrifting, but she doesn't want to thrift her clothes. Oh, I'm sorry. She just turned 17. So that's a little different. She buys her own things. And one time she said she saved up her $40 allowance to buy her mom a $150 dress. And then her mom never wore it. So she asked her if she should, like, do you want to wear your dress to this party? And she said no, she didn't want to wear it. And that she should have spent money on her own dresses. So she says her only wish is that they would splurge more on her and less on them. And then she's asking, am I overreacting? If so, please humble me. So she said she edited this to add. So I went home, they picked me up, and the whole car ride they were just calling me ungrateful and spoiled, etc. So I gave up and said other people would love to have me as their kid. And to which they said that they were going to cancel her phone plan. So that's kind of the scenario. So I would be interested to hear what kind of questions you would ask this 17-year-old.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And with what I'm about to say, although it may seem like on the surface, not many of us would relate to that situation, but I don't think that's the case. As you were reading it, all I heard was like a longing for deeper connection. And I think that we all can relate to that in some capacity, whether it's with our family, with friendships, belonging at work, in the workplace. I think that we all are always looking for deeper connection, and how we do it varies. And so it sounds like, she potentially maybe grew up in a home where the way to express that we care for you, we love you, we want to be around you is to potentially receive things. Or maybe she has seen that with like her parents. That's the way that they express that they care for each other, is by buying things or, those like materialistic items. And then we see another way that she has tried to gain her parents' love and affection is by like behaving well, right? And being this ideal child. And then we see that sometimes play out in families where it's like, if I live up to their expectations, and then I don't disappoint them, which means in turn that they're happy with me. But I think both of those examples, although many of us can relate to that in some capacity, I think both of those examples really just instill that love and affection is conditional. And as much as we have maybe found ourselves in those kinds of dynamics with family members or with friends, if we don't do for them or show up for them, they don't want to be around us, or even in relationships, romantic relationships, that's not sustainable. And it seems like whether or not that is the case with her, generally speaking, whenever we've tried to gain people's love through these like conditional ways, it just doesn't, it's not long lasting and it's not satisfying. And so I think if I were in front of her, I would probably ask her questions related to that. Like, what void is she currently feeling? Discuss the ways that she felt like she has tried to fill those voids. Maybe asking where she has seen some of that play out in the past. And then ideally, what would she like these relationships to look like and to feel like? And is there a way to do it that's unconditional? So those are just thoughts that come to mind. I'm curious, what was your thought as you were reading through it?
No, I love that. I think that's fantastic. I do think that it does come off like materialistic, but I agree. I don't think it's that at all. And I think if she was sitting across from me, I would feel bad. Like I empathize with her. I think that she's missed out on what love should look like from a parent, and I would want to help redefine that for her. Not with me specifically, but to help her define love and then find it in other relationships, because I think you can heal those wounds with other relationships that feel maternal or paternal. So I would not having her like actively seek out a different parent figure, but having her try to find a healthier love in other friendships, relationships, whatever that looks like. Because it doesn't seem like her parents are providing that for her. That doesn't mean they can't. And I wonder if maybe even having a conversation with them on what that looks like and what she's actually asking for could help too. So that's kind of the angle I would want to go with her, because I've had a lot of clients like that where they're complaining about something that seems so silly.
Trivial, or yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But that's not the root of it. Like, they're actually asking for something much deeper. So yeah, I would ask more questions around that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I always use this example. You've probably heard me use it before, like over the years, but I once had this professor. He had engaged in like a mock counseling session in front of us, and it was a couple, and the couple was complaining about the ketchup, or this ketchup situation in their household. And then the husband takes the whole bottle to work, kind of thing. And then we'll forget it there, and then they need it that night for dinner, and it's just like a thing, right? And most people, maybe friends, family, people listening to that scenario would think like, okay, well, either buy one that he can leave at work. Like, there are easy solutions for this, right? But the professor had said it's not about the ketchup. And I think we find ourselves in situations with clients a lot where they come to us, understandably so, frustrated about something that's happening in their life, and they can't quite, they feel like strong emotions about something that they're like, I don't know why I feel so strongly about this. It seems a little silly, but I do. And it's because they're not responding to the catch up, right? Or not responding in this case to the $40 allowance each month, although maybe she might think so. But there's deeper things, right, that are attached to some of these things that we see people really kind of struggling with. And so, yeah, and I love how you said like redefining love for her. Like, what does that look like? And I think it's ironically enough, we were talking about attachment theory just a few minutes ago, right? And so we see the impact that if those things aren't ironed out or kind of like cleaned up a little bit, like what that can look like in adulthood, in her, future relationships, if it doesn't get figured out. So,
Yeah, because the
yeah.
anxious attachment style says that you have to earn it. Like, you have to earn people's love by doing for them. So
Mhm.
yeah, that would
Mhm.
lead her right into that lifestyle, which is
Yes. Yeah.
scary. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That was a good one. I really enjoyed it. So maybe we should call this like part one. And
Yeah, let's do it.
do a part two. Cause as I was going through, I have to admit, I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, we recognize as therapists and then those that have gone to counseling before that as much as even you and I sometimes are like, please tell me what to do. You know, I need advice. I need someone to tell me I'm feeling stuck or I'm feeling like I'm in a rut or I'm like emotionally depleted, mentally fatigued. Like I don't have the capacity to make these decisions. And so we rely on people that we trust to help us with that. But we know that, like, as therapists, that doesn't necessarily, like, that resolves that issue, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily resolve any other issues that might come down the pipeline if, like, the deeper rooted thing isn't, like, addressed. And so I love this idea. It's like, yeah, it's easy to give advice, right? But I think when you get someone to really begin to think about the reasons behind why they're doing what they're doing, or maybe their loved ones and why their loved ones are showing up the way that they're showing up, it helps them with future scenarios also. And so I thought this was a great idea. So yeah, what do you think about doing a part two? Are you down for that?
I love it. Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for spending time with us today. I hope that you guys enjoyed as much as we do. We really do enjoy putting this content together and thinking it through and having these honest dialogues and conversations in front of you guys. If you have any thoughts at all that you'd like to share, feel free to place them in the comments below. And as we just explained, we will be coming up with a part two. So be on the lookout for that. And as my advice is always to continue reflecting.